Welcome back to Balance Redefined Radio. I'm Connie Sokol, your host, and I am delighted to share with you today our beautiful, fabulous guest. It's author Jenni James. Jenni, thanks for being with us today.
Hi, thank you for having me.
It is such a treat. If you have been in a cave and you don't know about Jenni James, you obviously have not read some of these Austen spin-off series or Regency or illustrated books, because she does it all, people. She does it all. She is the author of 50 books. That's right, 50. And she is the mother of a combined blended 11 children. Isn't that right? I mean, yeah. Crazy amazing. Oh, you are going to get some great stuff today. She has also been working as a screenwriter since 2017, adapting her books to film, and she's been working with Hallmark right now recently. Isn't that right?
Yeah, I have 4 that are in submission at Hallmark. We don't know if they're going to pick them up, but we hope so. Oh my gosh. I hope.
That would be so fabulous and so perfect. Yeah. And like I said, her genres, she does clean adult, young adult, children's genres, the Jane Austen diaries, which Pride and Popularity, Persuaded, so these little fun offshoots of the Austen ideas. And then she also has taught writing and marketing workshops and classes. She speaks at conferences, she speaks at schools. She's working on a curriculum-based series for dual immersion, language immersion. I mean, what does she not do? She illustrates books, she does painting. It's beautiful and wonderful and real. And you are going to love the creative energy of this woman and this can-do attitude of no matter what happens, you can move forward, because hard things have happened to her and she has gone through hard things and still, it seems to me, utilize this creative aspect to be able to use it in a therapeutic and in a contributing way where you can get out, share, and not be dimmed by what you're going through, but actually use it as a vehicle. So let's get started with that. Let's just even go back to, where did you you're at this amazing, amazing place, and people are going to listen and be intimidated. But I was, we were at a book signing together. I was sharing with her before we started a few years ago, and I was so intimidated to say hi to her. But people might be a little intimidated, like, wow, okay, that's her because she's amazing. But you have a very can-do attitude. So when at the very beginning did you know you even wanted to start writing or even wanted to start to be creative?
So I love to read, and I used to read a book a day. I mean, it took me 2 hours, and it was kind of my escape. So when the kids were napping or when at night sometimes to unwind, I would read a book, and it was my escape. I didn't realize what marriage I was in at the time, but we'll get to that later. But I realized how much I needed those books as a happy release. And so I never wanted to be an author, actually, ever, ever, ever. I thought it would be horrible. I thought writing a book would take, months, and it sometimes does. And reading one, you can read in a couple hours. So I never wanted to do that. And then one book came to me, my very first, Pride and Popularity, and I didn't even realize at the time it was a Jane Austen rewrite for teens. I knew nothing, but it came to me, and I don't know how you are after 3 days of no sleep, but I realized I was super evil. Like, evil, and my kids were whining, and I'm like, one of them is gonna die. I don't know. I was like, ah! And I realized I don't look good in orange because I was that sleep deprived. I'm gonna go to jail and I'm gonna wear orange. Like, never, I didn't even care about the kids at that point. Anyway, but I started writing. Yeah, right. What's important? No, and I started writing so that way this book would leave me alone. I had this teen guy wanting to know why Chloe didn't like him. He's like, I'm amazing. How could she not like me? And I'm like, go away. So I started writing. What is happening to me? That writing your own stuff is so much better than reading someone else's. I wrote, I know the connection may be a little bit right now, but I will try again. But I wrote A Pride and Popularity in 6 weeks, and it was amazing, and it just started this new journey. And I realized, obviously my first beta readers were like, well, this book is too clean. You're writing for teens. And I started 10 years ago, and they were telling me, nobody's going to buy this book. You need to add some angst, more angst, more sex, more swearing. And I was like, no. No, I had these girls that were going to be teenagers, and I wanted to provide them with clean books. I'm like, if I'm going to do this, then obviously there's a niche in this market that I need to be part of. And so that was my first real hurdle, is literally staying to my values. And I had an agent within just 4 months, I think of that. And then I had New York knocking on my door for the whole series. At that point, I'd already written 2 other books for the series. And yeah, it just kind of opened up this whole new world for me. And thank goodness it did.
That is incredible. And I love how that wasn't even your vision. Like it wasn't on your life board, I'm going to be an author, but you kind of fell into it. And again, listening to your soul, listening to, this is knocking at my door and this is not a wrong thing. So I can pay attention to this and kind of see where this goes. What does he want me to do with this? And I know you're a faith-based person and so am I. And those that are listening, for your higher power, universe, God, whatever that is for you. But that listening to it, being able to say, there's something that's talking to me here. And then that point that you make of value-based, because as an author and as a speaker, I have that same experience where people will give you all of you've got to do this in order to be successful. And you'll get that pretty quick of having to make that choice of, do I stay value-based or do I not? And I love that you saw that your children were going to read your stuff. My daughter reads my stuff and she's one of my best readers, my best beta readers. And no way could I put stuff in there that would make her look at me differently or teach her something other than what I taught her. So I love that you stayed with those values, which is hard when you start involving New York and those things. Did you ever get pushback with that?
I thankfully, and my story is kind of crazy and we might not want to go into it, but thankfully, the day that my book was going up to auction, I had 3 major New York publishers coming. The actual publishing world fell apart and Penguin had to fire several people. Random House had to fire several people. And so everybody pulled back and said, come back in 6 months. And thankfully, all these things, like I can't even tell you, I was actually living in England at the time. My ex was in the military and we were stationed there, and which is his own dream. Like I've lived 3 lives, I feel like. That was life 2. And now I'm on life 3, which is better than anything I could have ever imagined. But had those books taken off, we wouldn't have been able to leave the abusive situation we were in. My ex would have fought forever because we were looking at a 6-figure deal. But it gave me the confidence I needed, despite all the negativity coming at me from everywhere else, that I was doing something right. And I had interest. So I just kept going. And I mean, of course, I had to learn how to write too. That wasn't like in those 6 weeks, I had to rewrite. Well, once I wrote it, then I had another 6 weeks before I started looking for agents. And I had to rewrite Pride and Popularity 10 times as I learned how to write, because I'd forgotten all my grammar from high school and, all that. It was like, I don't even know what I'm doing, but I caught on. We got there.
I love that you share that not only something that looked to be the most amazing experience turned out to be the most devastating, turned out to be the best thing that could ever happen to you, even though it didn't look like that at the time. And I meet so many women who are like, oh, but this happened, so that must mean it's not a right thing or a good thing. Well, instead, it's a timing. Timing is so crucial. And like you said, that other 6 weeks that you went back in and wrote it, great idea. But if you can't execute, it's not gonna have that traction that you need to make it do what you eventually want it to do. So I love that you can look back and see the positive. So at the time, what was your thoughts? Were you stressed out? Were you thinking, I'm not gonna do this, I'm not a writer?
No. Well, everything, I truly believe everything happens for a reason. Like I'm not even just a little bit. I'm like, okay, this is happening for a reason. We were literally, oh my gosh, my ex had us in about $30,000 in debt. And yeah, I would have loved to have been able to help provide for the family at that time. Oh my gosh, that would have been an amazing dream. What I didn't realize is how much that 100 grand or 200 grand or whatever we were looking at would have been gone. He would have just spent it. I mean, it would have been gone, and there's nothing anybody could have done about it. Anyway, so I always look at challenges as a learning tool. And what am I learning out of this, and what can I learn? So for the next 6 months, we actually relocated from England to Utah because there's a huge writers hub here. There's actually more #1 best-selling authors per capita in Utah than anywhere else in the world. And
woohoo! And who knew, right?
I know. My agent told me that from New York. She's like, oh my gosh, if you can get to Utah, because they totally believe Twilight, Harry Potter, Hunger Games were all brought about. Like the popularity was because of Utah, because the kids read more here than anywhere else in the world. And so they totally believe. And there's a lot of moms that advertise, especially back then, mommy bloggers were a really big thing. And if you can get the bloggers behind you, which is what I did, I just connected with as many as I could, then they share that. They get excited and they share. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I love it. That is fantastic. And that kind of segues into, it sounds like you had to learn how to do marketing and things like that, because people have a fallacy kind of idea, this notion that, oh, when you publish a book, then they're going to do all this marketing for you. And it's just going to take off and it's going to be great.
No.
And that is not the case. So what was that journey like for you? What did you have to learn? How did you go about that?
So yeah, so those 6 months before we met again, we were supposed to meet again. Again, this journey is crazy. I literally researched everything good. I read every blog I could. I read every writer's frustrations about big publishers not paying them. I found out how actual royalties work and how you only get a chunk and then another chunk. And then they kind of continue to tack on any of your editing, anything like this. So then I looked at building a platform for myself and went, maybe I want to go more smaller publishers. Maybe this is what I want to do. And then I have, you're kind of a big fish in a small pond instead of a small fish in a really big pond. So I was looking at marketing, every single thing. And I knew I was onto something, because you don't have 3 of the big publishing houses interested unless you've got something. So I knew the Jane Austen diaries had never been done before. I knew, so I just kept pushing, and I kept writing too. That was another thing. I ended up writing, I think, 5 books within that year, even as we relocated as a family. All that stuff, I just continued to hone this new talent, learn every single thing, and continue to build my platform. So it was a lot of just everything from Twitter to anything that was new and happening. I was researching it on marketing, and it's all out there. It's out there for free. You can teach yourself. And once I realized authors had to do their own marketing, I was like, okay, let's go. Let's figure this out. This is obviously, I want to come in with a bang. Let's do this right. So we'll continue. So after 6 months, we met together again. We had another date set up. We had the publishers ready. It was super exciting. We were now living in Utah. I was ready for this money. I had my marketing going. I was, everything was ready. And my agent gave birth to twins that morning, 3 months early. So she was in the ICU with their babies hanging on their lives. So again, we pulled back, and I realized, okay, this is not happening for a reason. Like something is bigger here. Something is a lot bigger. And so I just learned more marketing, and then found my own. I mean, a lot of publishers were coming out of the woodworks when they were learning. And so I went with a smaller publisher, and I haven't looked back since. I've had other publishers come in, and yeah. And it's been great because my percentage is so much higher. Like, I know about contracts now. It was to a point where I could actually support my family. So then in 2012, when we needed to flee, I was able to, even though I hadn't seen a dime in royalties yet, because that's kind of another thing that happens. It takes about 18 months to start that. I was able to then have this platform and have a way to provide for my children, and be able to be there with them too. So it ended up being this huge blessing. Huge.
Incredible. I'm looking at all the layered things that you would on paper, you would not see. Oh, this writing thing would be so healing and helpful. But it created the therapeutic outlet for you, and a way to deal with your awful reality at the time, and a way for you to be able to say, I've got control of something in a situation that I can't control a lot of things, and be able to know I can secure something better for my family in the future. Even though I don't see it right now, I can feel that could be the case. How did your kids feel about you writing, and where did you find the time to do that? I know people listening are wondering.
So that is the huge question I always get. Sorry, my nose just started tickling. But it's a huge question I always get about, they're always like, how do you do it? Because and at the time I was a mom of 7. So a lot of my writing was done at night. I did marketing and editing during the day because I could be interrupted all the time. But if not, it was like this, I'd be starting to write, and I'll be like, and then, he walked up to her, and then my mom was like, my kids, Mom, can I get a drink of water? And I'm like, oh my gosh, water's free. Like, go get a drink. Like, I'm fine. And then I go back in, and I'll be like, and then he said to her, Mom, so-and-so got water. Can I have water? I'm like, everybody, go drink water. So I realized, but I could edit. I could read through the book, and sometimes I would read it to them and they'd be like, that's not working, or sometimes, I'd read it out loud, and then I can rewrite scenes as I go. I could definitely do all my marketing, do my, get on Facebook and start connections and start making friends and be part of groups. I mean, that's really when I did all that. And then at night, when I put them to bed at 8:30, from 8:30, and the older ones could, if it's summer or whatever, they could stay up a little older later, but they'd have to be quiet and watch movies. Like, this is real. But then from 8:30 to about 12:30, sometimes 2:30, if I was really into the story, that's when I wrote. That's when I wrote. And then so I would send them off to school. I always had a couple of babies, so then I'd have my babies, and then during nap time, that's when I would nap. If I was up until 2:30, I would have to nap with them too, because there's just no way. Now we have a 5-year-old that we're adopting, and that's where our 11th comes in. And we got her at 3, and she never napped, like never napped. And there's a moment of like, but she'll sleep thankfully all night long. She'll sometimes wake at 10 a.m. So I have my older children out there right now because it's summer. Like, hey, do not let her in here. You guys, make sure she has breakfast. Make sure she, so they're helping me right now. But yeah.
I love it. And that is the reality. And I love that. And let's segue to that for a second, because I know you and I feel that same way. It's not living parallel lives. Mom's a writer. And then when she's done 9 to 5, now you can be a mom. You mix them all in the mix, and this is part of a family deal. And I love that. What are some of the things that you've done to help them be involved in it? And what's been their response? How have they liked to be involved in it? What's their response to it?
So now I have like 10 years, right? They know that this is mom's full-time job. And that was another thing. When I decided to become a writer, I realized I have to treat this as a job. I really do have to sit my bum down and treat this as a job, which is another reason why I have 50 books published instead of just like 2 or 3. Because the reality, and a lot of that happened. I was super excited about it before the divorce, but after the divorce, when other job offers came in, I had to sit my kids down, and we do family council every day. Every day. These are mom's goals. What are your goals? What do we need to get accomplished? What am I forgetting? And we just sit down, and we look at our week too, but also every day, and then later on, like, so we remember. So I don't forget their things, because sometimes you get caught up, and you're a mom, and so I'm really super open with the kids. They know that this is a family effort. But the great part about them is they haven't stopped either. I have incredible writers coming out, and I've told them, wow, you write way better than I ever did at your age. You guys are going to be amazing. You're going to outsell me, and I've got great painters that have come out. My kids do embroidery. They do like so many things. I should probably say, when we moved to England, we actually turned off the television. It was so bad. There was nudity even in the commercials after 9, F word, like everything you can imagine, kind of basically Game of Thrones on your TV. And I knew my kids wouldn't be watching after 9, but I couldn't, if I had a babysitter or anything, I just didn't trust it. And so we turned off the TV, which then allowed me to write. Like, I look at all these little small steps we did. And so, yeah, we do have, we don't actually have a subscription or anything, but we do have DVDs, and the kids, those turn off after, they're not binge watching anything. They turn right off. So after a couple hours, and then they get to do something else, and so my kids are a lot more active. I have a 17-year-old daughter who's been writing plays and directing her own theater, which is her own thing. You might want to talk to her. She's amazing. And she had, last year, her cast was about 40 kids. This year was about 25. She's able to put these on, and she does their costumes, their sets, their design, like everything. And she has kids in the background and kids, behind stage and doing tech and everything. And they help do makeup. So she has a full theater that she runs. This is her 4th play she's done at 17 years old. She's written probably 20 plays now for children. And then she kind of looks at who auditions to where she's going to be and what plays she's able to use. And she's super amazing. She's my one that's right in the middle now. The oldest is 22, the youngest is 4, but out of her age.
She's right in the middle.
Yeah.
And that is such a huge point. When I'm talking to women, talk to them for 20 years, one of their biggest things is, but if I paint, if I write, if I do photography, if I do these things, it's going to take away from my family. And what I have shown over and over, and studies have shown, and our experiences have shown, is that it broadens them. You are giving of who you are, and it empowers them to be who they are. It empowers them to try, fail, try again, succeed. And they watch you as a mom go through this. And as you're being honest, like appropriately honest and candid with them of, okay, this is what it's like, and this is what I'm experiencing. Hey, everybody, let's get together and have a prayer about this because mom's stressed about it, you know. But I noticed that the more that I would bring my kids in and we would do it together, the more that they were emboldened to do the very things they want to do. Same thing, my daughter started writing some books that she was just paper, you know, with illustrating herself. And she brought it to me one day, and I remember I looked at it, and it was probably 8-9 pages long. And I looked at it and I said, this is so good. I said, did you put your name on it? You know, authors write their name on their books. And she just had this look like, I'm an author. And then she wrote her name on, super bold. But those moments, those empowering moments, no matter what it is of someone listening out there, or what it is you love to do, imparting that, sharing that, making it a family thing. Doesn't mean you have to make it a family thing all the time, but it means that you're in each other's mix. You can celebrate, you can commiserate, you can do all those things together, and that bonding. So it sounds like, especially during a difficult time, that's kind of what that did for you guys, and everybody could kind of popcorn their own creative aspect of that.
Yeah. Well, and we are a team. I mean, I love to cook. I'm working on cookbooks as well. And they always come in. They're my chefs, you know. They help me. One's doing the vegetables, one's prepping the water, one's doing the cake, you know, and we're all working together, and I'm reading out recipes. Okay, do it like this, do it like this. And they just love that, you know, and one's setting the table, you know. So we do fancy dinners every Sunday, where we like to put out the tablecloth and everything. Anyway, so I digress, but I wanted to give a little tip. I am a portrait painter first. I actually did that before I started writing. That's something I had picked up my early 20s, and while I was having children. And all my children are incredible artists. And I really didn't pick up art until about I was 10, 11, 12 is when I really just started drawing nonstop, and then went from stick figures to like Disney characters. And I mean, I had stick figures with their hands out of their heads. Like, I don't even know, like, I look at these going, was I really in 3rd grade when I drew it? You know, like, so I was really bad artist, but I wanted to be one so bad that I kept working. And so when I set up my paints now, when my kids are younger, I don't even dabble into oils. I just do acrylics because it's fast drying. You have to compromise there, but I still sell portraits as, you know, on canvas with acrylics. My kids, I always have that toddler right there. And so they get to use my water jar with their own paintbrush, an old brush of mine, and they get to paint water on their own paper that dries, you know. So they will sit right next to me while mommy's painting. And I've always realized, you know, a ream of paper is like $3.75, but what it creates later is so much more. So I've never denied my kids paper. Like, I just go to the store and buy another ream of paper. Like, I just can't, because there's so many artists, and I was always denied paper. And so I'm like, you know what, this is too silly. And so my kids always have something to paint on, something to create on while mom's creating. Anyway, and it isn't, and so that's something I do at home, but I was also, here we go again, a theater director while I lived in England, and I directed children's theater once a year. Now, funny enough, my daughter that does her own now was actually never old enough to be in my plays. I had a rule that you had to be 6 and older to be in one of my plays, just because of, you know, the confusion. You had to be 6 to 18. And, but I had a crib that came with me, a porta crib, and she was in there, and she was at every practice with me, and she was playing, and she got, you know, all the kids, if they're not on stage, the 13 and 14-year-old girls were playing, changing her diaper. It was awesome, just so, you know. And so kids never my crutch. I wanted to share everything with them. And they had to learn to be quiet at certain times. And they learned it too, not when the lights go down. Shh, you have to be quiet. And they learn, and they can be taught these things. And I think for them, I think that's one of the reasons why they're so well behaved now. I mean, because they were just brought up into everything. They love challenge. They love life. They love seeing who they're going to become. We talk about it all the time. You are here for this, for a purpose on this earth. Find out what yours is. I always wanted to be able to have a voice for teens. I've always loved speaking, so I thought I would be able to go out and speak. And so writing, I didn't see it as that opening at first. Oh my gosh, I have such an amazing voice. I have books all over the world. I have fans all over the world. We've been to Tonga twice, and we may actually go and serve a family mission there. We've been invited to teach them how to write books. They're really good at oral storytelling. But yeah, so we've been invited out there, and that is something, if these Hallmark things go through, we will leave, I mean, as early as within a year probably, to go out and do that. But we're looking at so many opportunities, and I'm going to put the kids in, when we go over there, those kids are starting book clubs. My daughter's going to continue her drama club. They're going to be helping me teach the classes. They will be so involved, and because I want them to learn, and the best way for them to learn is to put them right in the middle of it.
Oh, I love that. And put them right in the middle. That is it. And don't you find they actually come up with great solutions and additions and ideas?
Oh yeah. Oh
so
yeah.
Go, oh, how did I not see that? But that is a family, is all of that good, juicy, creative, life living stuff. That's just, oh, it's just a joy. I know we only have a few more minutes together, but I would love to kind of I just love all these things that you're sharing. I've gotten so many thoughts, and I'm going to wrap them up later on and be able to touch point them so people, if they just are joining us, they'll be able to know some of those too. But I want to go, if we can segue for just a minute.
Oh, no worries.
You went through a really difficult time. How were you able to still function and still, yes, it's a creative outlet, yes, it's a therapeutic outlet. How were you able to still deal with all the realities? Because those were hard, 7 kids and finances and all of that, and still be able to move forward on that writing and all of that when you had no idea what would happen or where it would go.
So as my marriage fell apart, there's a point where we were actually all kicked out of the house with 7 children. My oldest was 15 and the youngest was 2 at the time. I finally had to go to the cops and just say, what do I do? And they listened to my whole story and how everything was escalating. And they said, honey, you have a week to get out of there. And I'm like, why? And they're like, you're going to be dead. You understand the amount of abuse progress that is happening. Your husband has absolutely snapped. You have got to get yourself and the kids out. And he's like, this is your turning point. And I remember that officer just sitting me down saying, we see so many women become statistics because we tell them this and they don't think it's that bad when they go home. And he's like, if you do not get out now, you will all be dead. And I was just like this moment of like, oh my gosh, it really is that bad. Like I hadn't ever thought that we had got there, but I was living it. And I mean, and at that time, I wasn't even on a bank account. He had closed all the bank accounts. And so I had no way of even having my own money. Like I didn't even know. So I sold my wedding ring. I went downtown Salt Lake and I sold my wedding ring. And thankfully, it was a nice big, our 10-year anniversary ring. We were together 17 years, by the way. When I say I've lived 3 lives, I can't even. But yeah, I went and sold it and it gave me $2,000. That $2,000 is what got me to New Mexico, moving my family. We literally left with just dressers and their favorite things. I took their artwork. We've always had a gallery for their artwork to kind of get them excited. I brought that with me, but I left back so many things, my antiques. I left so many wonderful things but I have the kids, right? The divorce was final just 3 weeks later, thankfully, but then my real terror began after that. He just went anyway. The rumors, the gossip, the lies that were being told about me, everything was so hard. It was so hard. I had to give myself 6 months. I mean, really, I wanted to die. I wanted to die. You know, I moved back home into my own bedroom. You know, I have all these kids. After 17 years, we were on food stamps for the first time ever. The first thing I realized is I couldn't afford the Suburban payment. So I turned that car in and got this little tiny one. And then I realized I was trapped there. I could never take all my kids anywhere until I got myself out. And so for the first 7 months, literally, it was the worst depression I've ever seen. I mean, I wrote a book called Sleeping Beauty then, and for my fairy tale collection. And that's all I wrote in 6 months. Like I write so much quicker now, but it took me just to fight. I was drowning, literally drowning. And I wanted to just learn to swim again. That's all I wanted to do was just swim and stay afloat. And I kind of just had to, right? So so we left in June 2012. By January 2013, I kind of woke up. I went, all right, I had a lot of job offers coming in for like, you know, even just working at Sam's Club or working, you know, other places. I had job offers, which could have helped my family, but not in the way writing could have. And of course, my parents were very concerned about this writing thing. especially not seeing a dime in royalties. You
Oh,
know,
yeah.
like, sweetie, you can't support your kids. We need you out of here. We need you moving on. And I'm like, okay, okay, okay. And so in those 6 months, I had another publisher approach me and asked me to write fairy tales for him. And in those 6 months, I wrote 13 books. I've never written so much in my life. And I mean, literally, people say, how do you do it? I said, desperation.
Yeah.
Desperation.
Yes. Fear.
Desperation.
Yeah.
And in 6 months, and he was willing to pay me monthly if I started making over $1,000 a month. And bringing them out like that and having them be fairy tales and these new twists and high fantasy, they did really well. Thankfully, they did really well.
What a gift.
Because I was able to buy my minivan at the end of that 6 months. And then I was able to move us out by the following January. And to move, everyone's like, oh, you're still living at your mom's, but you're a bestseller. I had all that crap all the time.
Oh, bless you.
Making fun of me. And I'm like, yeah, I'm a bestseller, but I have 7 kids. I can live in any apartment if I had one. Like, I never realized until that moment. I never thought of my kids as too much or too many, and it wasn't until I was single and trying to support them on a very meager child support, and I realized I got to do this. I got to do this on my own. I just got to do this, and I got to be able to do this, and I got to be able to do this right. I got to be able to do this right now. And so thankfully by then, my career, all that platform building since 2009, everything that I had been doing and working, when those books came out, it was just this explosion. And then my other checks started finally coming in, everything just came to a head that I was able to literally save my family. We now own a home. I moved us to Bountiful, but we now own a home down in Fountain Green, which is a tiny little town hidden away, which is wonderful. It has a little farm on it and an acre. And I bought that with my book royalties. It was my final. My husband's name isn't even on it. When I met him, it was amazing. But in 2015, I bought this house as my final. I am flying now. I am soaring. I came from drowning, and I did this on my own. And to me, it's been such an incredible, and yeah, so a lot of women, they get their royalties and they will spend it on new shoes or a new dress, or they'll take their family on a vacation. And at first I was a little bit like, oh, I don't have all this extra. And then I'm realizing, wait, my royalties are literally providing. I'm making a house payment and utility bills. And now we do have extra for little vacations and things, but we still stay frugal, because as a family of 11 now, you have to be, it doesn't matter how much money I make, it's gone, and not gone, but you know what I mean? You go through it. So anyway.
And that is stunning, because most people listening probably think, I know it was Jeff Savage the other day, J. Scott Savage, but somebody had posted and said, wait, you're a bestseller and you have a day job? And he was like, yeah. So for you to be able to do that, I mean, that's just phenomenal. And that you have the freedom, you have now with your writing created this freedom where you can be with your family. You can live this connected life, and it's not 9 to 5 and you come home and then you're exhausted. It's all, again, kids are in the middle. It's the family mix. And what a gift. Oh, Jenni, this has been so enlivening. I'm so thrilled. I'm taking all kinds of notes, and I'm so excited. If there's one piece of advice for someone out there who's listening and thinking, I want to do something, maybe it's photography, maybe it's a garden, maybe it's, I want to help kids in the community, that they're thinking and it's calling to them, but they feel like, I don't know if I can, my kids are going to be okay.
That's that turning point in 2013.
Yeah, this is your turning point. I love that. What would you say to them in that turning point?
Jump. Jump. I mean, even if you don't have wings, you might have, you're going to find out you have the wings, and you might hit a few bumps along the way, but it's okay. It's okay. You're going to soar eventually. If you have that feeling that you're meant to be doing something that is going to help something brighter and bigger than yourself, you will be blessed along the way. I can't even, and you're going to have to face every naysayer, every person telling you you're wrong. You're going to have to say, you know what, though? I know I'm right. I know I'm right. You're going to have to deal with all that crap, because it still comes from your best friends, from your biggest supporters. They're going to be worried for you. And thankfully they are. But at the same time, you've got to be more worried about your mission on this earth and than anything else. And if I can get a little spiritual, I can tell you right now, God does not care about money. He cares more about getting what you need to get done, and he will provide the rest. He doesn't care about money. that whole like, oh, I need to have all of this. No, as I learned with, the 6 figures, and with this Hallmark thing, I've submitted 4 screenplays. It's great. It would be a wonderful opportunity. I'm looking at 6 figures again for all 4 of them to get combined. But again, I do know that the Lord doesn't care about money. So if he wants this to happen, this will happen. If not, I will find a way to get there on my own and do my own things and, get to where I need to get on my own and still be happy, and my children will still be blessed. Also, another point, and I don't know why, I feel like I need to say this, but one of the best parts about after our divorce and being able to write those 13 books from home and being able, well, I've written since then so many more, but being able to be an author like this is I've been able to help each of my children heal from their own abuse, from their own trials that have come from this. And they all go through a cycle because they go through it at different times. I think the one that hit it hardest was the 13-year-old first. And then we had to go back to the 2-year-old. And then we went back to the 15-year-old. And each kid just, they've all come. And I've been able to be that mom for them and take them out on that date and sit them down one-on-one and just talk and get stuff out with them and then repeat. Lather, rinse, repeat repeatedly. Always be watching my children and seeing which one needs me most. And so if you are struggling, if you are going through the divorce, you're not the only one. Your children have gone through horrific abuse as well, emotionally especially, and they're very lost. And I almost lost, and now I'm getting into harder things now. My 15-year-old now, 2 years ago, it was about 1.5 years ago, I almost lost him to suicide. I didn't know it, but every time his name came up, I had this feeling, like this voice in the back of my head say suicide. And finally I was like, what is that? Why does every time I hear his name, I'm hearing suicide? And finally I took him out to dinner and I said, what's going on? And I told him what's been happening, and he just clammed right up. And I said, how long have you been planning this? And he's like, a while. And it all stemmed from the divorce 3 years before, and he was planning on hanging himself in his bedroom. Like it was already there. And how horrific would that have been to walk into that? And for any mother that has gone through that, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And I don't know how to fix it, but I did. For me, I pulled him out of school immediately. I took the stress he had away. And I pulled him out of school, and we gave him just the rest of the year off. It was in January that I found it. We gave him the rest of the year off, and then he started 9th grade on his own. He's doing 9th grade through the online course. Penn Foster is amazing, and he's succeeding. He's getting straight A's. He's starting to laugh. Within 6 months, we noticed him laughing, chasing the kids, having such a great time. So do watch out for your kids. If you have an opportunity to be able to do what you need to do, maybe it's to save one of them.
I love that. And not realizing, again, going back to that point of women being afraid that it will take away from their family, when so often when that knock comes, it's about, here's a better way to do this, because I know what's coming down the road, and you're going to need to be there for that. So how beautiful. It is a leap of faith. It's a step every day to move forward and say, I don't know what this looks like. I can't predict the outcome, but I'm doing the best that I can. And I love that. I see that threaded through all of your journey. There's been this faith and this courage of, I don't know what's going to happen, but I know I'm going to be true to what I know inside, and I'm going to be true to that today to the best of my ability. And that's life. That is just doing the best every day.
Yeah, no, it is. It is.
I love it. Jenni, this has been phenomenal. For those that have joined us late and didn't catch everything, I'm just going to kind of wrap up summation. Can't even sum up the beautifulness. Go back and listen. This is just too good. But I love this where you said, listen to the knocking. Some of this in essence. Listen to the knocking. Stay close to your values and stay with them no matter what pressure you're getting. Hold those family councils. Carve out the family time together. Keep the kids in the middle. Don't live separate lives. Put them in the mix. Put them in the crib and take them while you're doing the theater, right? And teach them in the living how to live, not in a little 2-minute lesson that you do after dinner and there you go. And I love, pay attention to the turning points, because when that comes and your soul tells you, then jump. Because even if you don't know what's going to happen, you'll discover your wings as you go. And so beautiful, beautiful points, Jenni. If people want to get a hold of you personally, what's a great way to do that? Where can they reach you best?
So probably Facebook, which is how you got a hold of me, is really like messaging on Facebook. And if I don't get back to you, it's because I've received like 30 that day. So just bump it to the top. But I'm author Jenni James on Facebook. You can find me any spelling that way. My email is thejennijames@gmail, but it's Jenni with an I. And then I don't know. I'm kind of everywhere. Google Jenni James, you're gonna find me somewhere. But yeah, thanks to the 10 years of marketing, right?
Exactly. It's all coming around full circle, fruition. Oh,
Right.
it's been a joy and a pleasure, and I wish you well. And I'm so excited. I'm sure we'll connect again in the future, but I just love what you've shared today, and the best of everything to you, and cross fingers. Keep us posted on the Hallmark.
Thank you. Thank you. I will. I will. I
It's
hope.
been a joy. Thank you so much. And everyone, thanks for joining us. If you want more, subscribe below. If you want to try some of these things, and comment, and I'd love to hear from it, ConnieSokol.com. And always remember, make this year your year to get balance redefined.
Bye. Yay.